everyone, welcome to UGC NET Political Science classes by Drishti. I'm Dr. Ashwati. So students, today we are going to have our third lecture on international relations. In today's lecture, I'll be completing the rest of the approaches which are there. So before I begin with today's class, I will be discussing about an important element in international politics. When you're dealing with international politics, there are two types of theories basically, the explanatory theories as well as the constitutive theories. Explanatory theories are those which are called as the positivist theories. They are called as the foundational theories. They try to find, or their main objective is to explore the trends and patterns which are there in the international politics. Okay, so they are actually explain certain range of phenomenon and problems in global politics and provide set of normative claims they give. Okay, but with reference to the constitutive theories, they are called the anti-foundational theories. They are also known by the name reflectivist theories. Constitutive theories are also called as reflectivist theories. At the same time, the explanatory theories are called as the rationalist theories. Okay, so among the explanatory theories, like you have this liberalism, realism, all these things are the explanatory theories. But with reference to the constitutive theories, you have critical theory, post-modernist theory, etc. falls under this category, which are also called as the reflectivist theories. Okay, so the basic objective of the reflectivist theory is to explore or to explore the hidden truth or the hidden assumptions, to find the biases which are there. Okay, what they focus more on the language, the deconstruction, then after the religion, culture, gender norms, etc. Okay, so they have how these things like language, culture, religion, gender shape the world politics. So this is actually kind of a today my objective is to explain about both the explanatory theories and the constitutive theories. So till now we have discussed about the explanatory theories. Today we will be dealing with the constitutive theories or the reflectivist theories, okay, which are part of the fourth debate also, rationalism versus reflectivism. Okay, now so in approaches today I'll be dealing with constructivism, critical theory, feminism and post-modernism. Okay, now we will first start with constructivism. Okay, one of my favorite theory. Now what we have understood here, it is it emerged in 1990s. Okay, so it is it has got prominence in the post-Cold War scenario. Okay, always remember about the historical context. Okay, post-Cold War, or we can say that in the declining years of Cold War, constructivism was slowly growing up. Okay, now why I am talking about the historical context, it is because in UGC NET examination they actually ask you 4 manners, right? Here either they will ask you to put certain events in a chronological order, or they may ask you to identify a book or a key concept, or they may give you some subjective analysis statements as well that you have to find out. Okay, so what if they say that the constructivism belongs to that period of First World War or Second World War? It's a wrong statement, right? Because constructivism emerged in the 1990s, or we can say the declining, or we can say that by the 80s itself its foundation was growing. Okay, so it challenged neorealism, neoliberalism and other mainstream theories as they explored only on the material forces. Okay, so under constructivism, world is defined as composed of both the material forces as well as the ideational forces. Okay, so now you have to understand the material forces the money, power, whatsoever things the material forces are there. Ideational forces is something how the idea, certain norms actually get an authority, or we can say that it becomes so that you accept that person's norms or conditions or something. Okay, you have a set of values, and so let's say that there are 4-5 values are there, but in the discussion or in the dialogue or in the dialectic, only one norm gets the prominence. Okay, so now Constructivism identified norms, ideas, identity and rules as significant driving forces in international politics. So they are actually more concerned with the ideational forces that shape the world politics. Okay. Now, reality as socially constructed and historically produced. Now, you have to understand that how certain norms and values are historically constructed or socially constructed. Okay. Now, as you know that, let's take an example of Hitler. He produced that idea of Nazism. Okay. Now, they had a kind of, racist ideology was also part of it. So now that hatred towards the Jews, dehumanization of the Jewish community. Then after you have the another idea that is called the stereotyping of the Jewish community that happened during the Adolf Hitler's period. So how he produced that idea of hatred towards the Jews. Okay. So that is how the ideas does matter. Okay. Now the constructivists investigate how the world order is organized, okay, and the factors that shape its sustenance. Like there are certain norms and values that actually create a kind of a hegemony in world order, or they produce the world order. So we can understand that how ideas actually shape the international politics is the main thrust. Okay. Now, constructivists focus on agent-structure relations mediated by the ideational forces, like how structures shape the identities, then after the interests, foreign policies of the states, how state and non-state actors reproduce that structure and then after transforms it. Okay. So now you can understand that how agents respond to the structures in which they operate, like how it's like a kind of a reciprocal one, like the agents actually shape the structures and structures are also shaped by the agents. Okay. So how the states actually, like certain states, like we have a kind of a behavior among the states also. It's a very idea by Pamela Chasek also. Like some states actually try to take a lead position in world politics. Some states try to be neutral. Some states keep a kind of an oscillating tendency. Some states are like veto, said no, we are not supporting it. Okay, we have different types of countries. When you look up to the treaties also, take any treaty, you will find, some are the parties to the contract, some are not parties to the contract. Some states have signed it but not ratified it. Okay. So different ways you can find the norms in the international politics. So how agents see them? Okay, they themselves in the international scenario. Let's say that there is a ongoing Ukraine-Russia war is there. Now, how certain states, for Belarus, like what sort of, how they see themselves in that whole scenario, and what could be the, what we say, the reaction of many other countries which are there. For a country like Taiwan also, it also has a kind of a fear that, okay, in turn, like there is a possibility that China may also set an aggression on them, just like Russia has set an aggression on Ukraine. Okay, so now it is something like that, how states or the agents actually see themselves in this, in the changing world scenario. Now, varying tendencies in state behavior is also observed under constructivism, like how states behave in different situations. Okay, state behaviors are not constant, rather they change. And there is one famous line that, there is no friends, there are no permanent friends in the international politics. Like, you keep on, like you may have, like in the Cold War period, we were very close to the USSR. In the multipolar world now, what we have seen that India is actually engaging with various countries in the world, right? We have the Act East policy, we have the look west policy. Then after we have been engaging with the countries in the Pacific Island, like the Pacific Island countries are there. Then we are engaging with the Central Asian republics, we are engaging with the Middle East. So now you can understand that how, like in a multipolar world, we cannot be like, part of one or two friends. We need more and more friends, okay? Because it is all about, there is a prominence of globalization also. So now you can understand that varying tendencies in state behavior. Now, Alexander Bandits' works, it's a very important one, okay? Please note down the names of each works, because this actually, when I used to attempt my UGC NET examination, I remember one question did come from the Alexander, the identification of a book, okay, from that section. So, agent structure problem in international relations theory. published in 1987. Anarchy is what states make of it. The Social Construction of Power Politics, published in 1992. Now you can understand that from the very, like, the title of the work itself, you can understand that anarchy is what states make of it. It's a constructivist approach, okay? Like the states are actually making the anarchic situation. Not the anarchy is not something that is natural. It is actually a constructed one, okay? Then the Social Theory of International Politics, he published in 1999. Okay, these are the prominent works that I have mentioned it here. Now, Alexander Bandits' famous 3 cultures of anarchy. It's very interesting one, okay? This is called, the Hobbesian is called the enemy. This Lockean is called the rival. And Kantian is called the friend. Now, in each of them, okay? So, according to Alexander Bandit, the 3 cultures of anarchy, he means that the deep structure of anarchy is cultural or ideational. So, different cultures of anarchy, like under the Hobbesian structure, he creates a kind of a very pessimistic worldview, okay, that states are always in conflict with each other. Then after, we know that it's like more of a, we can say that it's a zero-sum game, okay. Under the Lockean system, it's like a rival, okay, conflict is inevitable. There is a high possibility that there will be, like, wars in the world. But yes, through the norms and, through agreements, we can actually solve it. That is the Lockean understanding. But with the Kantian understanding, it's like a positive sum game. Positive sum game, it means that everything is like cool. Like, there is high optimism that the countries, like the countries with Republican constitution, they won't go for war. So, Alexander Bandit has explored 3 like cultures of anarchy in his work. Okay. So, now, other famous thinkers associated with constructivism. So, Martha Finmore and Catherine Sickink. Okay, they have, both of them have written this article, International Norms and Political Change, published in 1999. Then after, you have Frederick Kratochwil's book, Rules, Norms and Decisions on the Conditions of Practical and Legal Reasoning in International Relations and Domestic Affairs, published in 1989. And Nicholas Onuf's, this is a very important book, Nicholas Onuf's World of Our Making, published in 1989. Now you can see that from the titles itself that they are actually pushing for a constructivist approach. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about the critical theory. Okay. So critical theory, Neo-Gramscians, influenced by Frankfurt School and the writings of Antonio Gramsci. So if you remember Antonio Gramsci's famous hegemony theory. So Gramsci termed capitalist system as sustained by hegemony of the bourgeoisie ideas. He talks about the consent and coercion, okay. That at one level you have some institutions that are there to produce the consent, like the family, the religious institutions, cultural groups, civil society groups, etc. Then at the another level, you have the coercion, the institutions of coercion, like the coercive apparatus of the state, the police, the paramilitary, military, all these things, who have the monopoly over the usage of power. Okay. We can say that monopoly over violence, we can say. Okay. So critical theory, I have written it as CT here. Okay. So critical theory investigates the interaction between state, social forces and the world order. So they don't call themselves as like completely Marxist, but rather than they have got influences from the Marxism. Okay, so Marxism actually, we can say that the Gramsci's Marxism or the neo-Marxism that provided intellectual background for the development of the critical theory, and as it was developed by, like, the Frankfurt School members as well, like the famous thinkers like Horkheimer, Adorno, etc. So now Robert Cox, very important figure associated with critical theory, he distinguished between the problem-solving theories and critical theory. Okay. So for him, the problem-solving theories, they takes the world as it finds it, as they find it. Okay. Like studying the world as it is. Okay. It is something like, like something they are just trying to find the pattern, just like the explanatory theories. Okay. Like they are trying to find the patterns. Okay. They are just writing about the phenomena. Yes, this things happened. and that's it. Okay, they are not trying to change it, or they are not giving you some solutions to transform it. Okay, so now you can understand that there are like, you know, but with reference to critical theory, they questions how prevailing order came about. They are more associated with the emancipatory politics. Okay, so they are more associated with the emancipatory politics. They stands apart from the prevailing order and asks like how that order came about, as well as the institutions and the social relationships, and asks if there is like any possibility to transform it. Okay, so for critical theory like realism, neo-realism, they are the problem solving theories. So now they also ask about the social construction of knowledge as well. So Robert Cox studied both UK and USA for developing his concept of hegemonic ideas. These two countries used free trade, okay, free trade to create domination in world politics. Okay, so Robert Cox has written very famous work. His major work is Social Forces, States and World Orders Beyond International Relations Theory, published in 1981. Okay, this is one of the most important theory written by Robert Cox, published in 1981. Okay, for realist, state is the unit of analysis, as well, like, you know, if you go back to my other, like, you know, the first video as well as the second video, you must have seen that the for realist, state is the unit of analysis. But for the neoliberals, they actually had a kind of an idea that state is not just a unit of analysis, but they actually keep on analyzing some non-state actors as well. But for Cox, there is a need to focus on the state-society complexes. Okay, like, so how the social forces and the material forces actually, like, you know, shape the world politics. And he has also, like, you know, given a kind of an idea. There is a need to focus, as he says that the concept of hegemony is associated with the concept of powerful social groupings unconstrained by national boundaries, and then the political dominance is created through the consent as well as the coercion. So the emancipatory theory of social change, or like, you know, on a global scale, is rooted in an examination of the linkage between the social forces, ideology, capitalism, and how they actually produce the hegemony in world politics. Okay, now another prominent thinker associated with critical theory is Andrew Linklater, who categorized the dominant themes. Okay, like he is saying, he has actually explored in his work that power is the main dominant theme of for the realist, order is for the rationalist, and emancipation is for the revolutionists. Okay, so how actually in world politics you find different types of themes are there. But for Robert Cox and critical theories, they are actually there to explore that how a certain hegemony or the domination has been created, and who are the victims of it, and who has actually created that domination, its effects, and how it can also be transformed. Okay, so he is more concerned with the interaction between the social forces, state, and the world order. Here, state plays an intermediate and autonomous role between the social forces as well as the world order. Okay. Now, to Andrew Linklater, critical theory is concerned with the search for truth and freedom. Andrew Linklater's famous work, Power, Order, and Emancipation in International Theory. This was published in 1990. Okay, keep an eye on it. There is a high possibility that in UGC, they tend to ask questions related to books, their writers, and their major like, you know, contribution towards certain theories. Okay. Now we come to feminism in international relations. As we know that feminism is not a new phenomenon, but rather the theory actually emerged from the immediately after the French Revolution itself in France. Then after, you have very famous feminist theories from France, then after we have from UK, USA, etc. Then we have a new form of theory also, the post-colonial theories are also there. So, but feminism in IR, it actually has grown simultaneously in 1960s and 70s itself. and aim was to achieve a political, social and economic equality for women. But particularly it has rose to prominence, or we can say that in 1980s, like from the 60s onwards, there were like, that it had a kind of a new thrust was emerging. But yes, by its correct emergence, we can actually trace from that of 1980s, prominence achieved more in the post-Cold War period. Okay. Now, they have questioned, like the feminism has always questioned the patriarchy. So, they applied the same formula in terms of understanding the international politics as well. Okay. So, they question the male-centric theorization of IR. As we know that in international politics, they are highly obsessed with the ideas of world order, power, the theory of anarchy, etc. So, for feminists, these are like highly patriarchal, very male-centric, that you are talking about courage, you're talking about wars, etc. So, these are very masculine features. Okay. Feminine features are more like into like peace, nurturing, and the emotions and etc. So, absence of women in key institutions and decision-making processes as well. As you know that when you look up to the key international institutions as well, you don't find much women in the top positions. There are few women, okay, but you don't find a good representation of women. Till now, we are actually discussing about sorry, giving like representation to women in parliament or increasing their representation in the parliament. But at the same time, now look up to the world scenario. Okay, like in the world politics, you can see in the world that there are so many countries which are developing countries. Some are countries like developing, some are the non-developed nations also, like or least developed nations, we can say. In those least developed countries, women's conditions are actually very pathetic. Okay. So now you can understand that even in developed countries also there are issues. But yes, the first wave of the like feminism in IR, somewhere it actually emerged from that of what we say, some people came to criticize the realism as well. But like the liberal feminism, they have emphasized more on the idea that you need more women in the decision making processes, as well as their representation is more necessary in the key institutions. Now, objective of feminism, like whatever it is variant, okay, whether it is what we call it as the liberal feminism, Marxist feminism, or like the feminism like postmodern feminism or constructivist feminism, but yes, the objective is to making women visible in international debates. Now, Cynthia Enloy, very famous thinker, and she asked, where are the women? Then came Maricia Zaleski. She made a point, where is women in international relations? Now you can understand that they are actually trying to, they are having a kind of a common idea that if women are more in the decision making processes and they hold more position in institutions, international institutions, there is a high possibility that there are less chances for war and conflict. Okay. Feminists investigated the causes behind war, conflictual state behavior as deeply embedded in the unequal, patriarchal, gendered structural relations. Okay. Now, traditional international relations theories were obsessed with the high politics only. According to Andrew Hewood, feminists have argued that the theory of power politics is premised on masculinist assumptions about rivalry, competition, and inevitable conflict, arising from a tendency to see the world in terms of interactions amongst the series of power-seeking autonomous actors. So, there are like, they are only concerned with the concepts of power, anarchy, competition. Okay. So, there is a kind of an obsession that you can find it here. So, that is the reason why the traditional international relations theories have actually like obsessed with high politics. When you hear about high politics, okay, high politics, it is about the obsession with security, military matters, etc. Okay. So, high politics. Now, moving to next. So the works of J. and Tickner, one of the most famous like feminist theories in international relations, she actually criticized realism, especially she criticized Hans J. Morgenthau's 6 principles, and she actually produced an alternative principles, like she actually questioned Hans Morgenthau's principle, and then she produced a feminist version towards the that Hans J. Morgenthau's 6 principles. Okay. Now, famous works of J. and Tickner: Hans Morgenthau's Principles of Political Realism, of Feminist Reformulation, 1988. Then she wrote Gender in International Relations, one of the most prominent work, and that was published in 1992. Feminist Perspectives on 9/11, 2002. She criticized realism by setting an alternative to Hans J. Morgenthau's 6 principles. Okay. So, now, for for the feminist, obviously they have identified that how gender is a constructed reality and how certain norms are created. They have applied the same formula to that of international politics. But yes, in international relations, when we deal with the feminist theories, there are Marxist feminism, feminist critical theory, feminist constructivist theory, feminist postmodernist theories as well. Okay. Now, and there is one more thing, and Tickner's works, sometimes in UGC NET, they have asked at multiple, in multiple exams, they have asked about J. and Tickner's works. Okay. It's very important, students. So please do remember her, the prominent names of her works, etc. Okay. And Tickner, very famous personality associated with feminism in international relations. Now, we are going to explain about post-modernism. Okay. Now, post-modernism has also received much prominence in recent times. It is sometimes actually called it invariable, they are called as sometimes post-structuralism as well. Okay. So, some of the the theories from other social sciences as well, Foucault's theories, Derrida, and all these theories were also utilized by the postmodernist writers in international relations. Okay. So, premised on the idea that knowledge and power are interlinked. Okay. In the sphere of international politics, let's say that if you call some country as a rogue state or a failed state or a state that is a kind of a danger to everyone, so how can you term a certain state as a failed state? Okay. You cannot call it like that. So, some states are out there in the world which actually they create that norm or the values or the way actually, oh, that is a dushman, that is an enemy state. Okay. They must be possessing some sort of dangerous weapons. You haven't gone there. You haven't personally visited that country, or you have no other clue, but some countries are saying that that country is dangerous to others. So, this is how how the now those powerful ones, whatever they say, there is a high there is a kind of an understanding that people accept it. Those who are powerful, they say, okay, that person has said something, or he has got some very good fan following, that the person, whatever he is saying or she is saying is correct. Okay. So, this is something that we understand, that knowledge and power are interlinked. Okay. So, now history is portrayed as a series of dominations and the application of knowledge and power. Now, as we know that white man's burden, okay, that was an idea propounded by the colonial masters or the colonial countries. So, now for some time that people had a kind of, this is how they created the superiority complex, the inferiority complex, then after the difference between the Occident and the Orient, then after the way certain narratives were also produced. Okay. So, the country of snake charmers, something like this. So, now they have tried to portray through multiple they reproduce such knowledge, and then after they imposed on us. Okay. So, there is a saying that colonialism was not just about the invasion of the physical territories, but rather they actually invaded the way we think as well. They try to invade our belief system, our minds, and many other things. It is part and parcel of the colonialism that has taken a kind of a twin approach. Okay. So, now it is like, you know, the history is portrayed as a series of dominations. Obviously, every time, sometimes, like, you know, that some countries have achieved dominance. So they actually, like in the Cold War period, you had a bipolar politics. Okay. So US and USSR were there. They were actually scrambling for creating domination in the world politics, right? They were creating pockets of their, what we say, pockets of influence, right? So through Warsaw Pact, NATO, CENTO, CEAT, all these things we have seen. So their history is actually portrayed as a series of dominations and application of knowledge and power again. Okay. Postmodernists, they instrumentalize the genealogical approach to unearth the truth. Okay, so they are actually concerned with the idea that how you have to understand that how the modern state is actually like, you know, called as the, like they have equated the emergence of modern state as equivalent to that of, or we can say that they are related it with that of the origins of violence. Okay, so now they criticize the modernity and skepticism about the grand narratives. Now you say that certain theories actually try to create a kind of a, okay, what this theory is saying, it actually gets a kind of a hegemonic, like, you know, a hegemonic influence. They are actually questioning such grand narratives. They are saying that there is a high possibility that the claims can be false as well. Okay, there can be, there is a high possibility that you can actually find some hidden truth, or there can be, like, you know, micro narratives as well. Now they have actually tried to like they have employed this deconstruction, double reading and all these things, like these ideas. Okay, so for them, they are actually of the opinion that like, you know, the modern statecraft is modern mancraft. This was an idea by Richard Ashley, very eminent postmodernist thinker. You can just, you know, understand from this itself that modern statecraft is modern mancraft. It is the human who are actually producing certain ideas, and how these ideas are actually getting some hegemonic values as well. Okay. So now postmodernism, which is concerned with the deconstructing and distrusting any account of human life that actually claims to have a direct access to the truth. You have to use your, so this is the way how they have been, like, you know, questioning the what we say, the grand narratives or the grand theories which say that, okay, whatever we are saying as like the realism or any other theory, they are actually questioning it. Okay, so they are saying that you have to find out the truth. Then after, postmodernism is alternatively associated with post-structuralism and deconstruction. Postmodernists are not concerned with what sovereignty is than how it is produced or interpreted in the space and time. Like, they are not saying, they are not explaining what sovereignty is, but they are saying that they are actually more like, you know, indulged in understanding that how it is produced, how it is actually related to the phenomenon of international politics, how the nature of the sovereignty is actually changing it. Okay. Now, there's a very famous thinker called David Campbell. He has said this line: can we represent world politics in a manner less indebted to the sovereignty problematic? Okay. Similarly, Richard Ashley, he has spoken about that, you know, this double reading and the double reading of anarchy he did, and he it led to him to propound the theory that there is no opposition between the anarchy and sovereignty, because he says that it is false. Okay, like there is no competition between the sovereignty and anarchy, because the domestic domain of sovereignty is a stable one and legitimate foundation of modern political community. And second one, to represent domain beyond sovereignty as dangerous and anarchical is actually false. He is talking about, like, there is a kind of an idea that both are actually related to each other. Okay, as we can say that anarchy is also something that states makes it. Okay, the constructivist way. Now, moreover, the boundaries are portrayed as creation of politically powerful groups. Let's take an example like creation of us and them. The boundaries are not just about the political boundaries, but the boundaries, the ideal boundaries are also there. Okay, like portrayed as creation of politically powerful group, actually through hegemony, they actually create this, you know, us and them, how we are different from them. Okay, Now, inside-outside dichotomy of sovereignty, this was a theory propounded by R.B.J. Walker. Okay. From the perspective of state sovereignty, inside denotes the domestic realm, order and progress. Outside represents chaos, war and anarchy. Now, there is a kind of an inside, okay? The inside, like within inside, we say that, okay, domestically, every other country, like, through the application of sovereignty, they are actually like progress and order is there. But at the outside level, you talk about anarchy. So, Walker is also questioning the same. Okay. Now, we have to understand that post-modernism is more like into exploring the origins of violence. Then after, like how the deconstruction of identity defined in terms of security and foreign policy. Then after interpretation of the statecraft. Then after the connection between the claims of knowledge and claims of power and authority. Now, these are the famous books written by the postmodernist thinkers. Richard Ashley has written, these are the articles, okay? The Poverty of Neorealism, published in 1984. Untying the Sovereign State, a double reading of the Anarchy Problematic, published in 1988. Living on Borderlines, Man, Post-Structuralism and War, published in 1989. Okay, these are the works by Richard Ashley. Next is R.B.J. Walker's work, Inside Outside International Relations as Political Theory, published in 1993. David Campbell's book, National Deconstruction, Violence, Identity and Justice in Bosnia, published in 1998. So, student, here we comes to the conclusion of our approaches section. So, today we have actually focused more on the reflectivist theories, and these are very important, students, and I have actually tried to portray, like, in my lecture, that how certain like I have given the explanation about the each and every approach, as well as prominent names, thinkers, major concepts as well I have discussed here. Okay, students, so thank you for watching my video. See you in another edition. All the best for your UGC NET examination. Bye.